What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the specs of the Motorola Moto X to the Google Nexus 4. Now the Moto X has been highly anticipated and it's the first device that's been developed from start to finish since Google bought Motorola last year. The Nexus 4 on the other hand is the flagship from Google right now, and it supports that stock Android experience at a budget price as well. So what's so different between these two devices and which is the better device to go for? Well, do hit that thumbs up button and let's find out in this head-to-head spec comparison. So we'll start off with the screen size, what you'll be looking at most, and both of these have the same screen size, 4.7 inches diagonal, so that's what you're going to be expecting from both of these. Slight differences in resolution. The Moto X has a 720p display, so that's 1280 by 720, 316 ppi. The Nexus 4 has a 1280 by 768 pixel resolution, so slightly more than 720p here, 320 ppi on the Nexus 4, and no major difference between these two. You know, they are quite similar, so you're not going to be seeing a huge deal of difference between these two. Now in terms of the physical dimensions of the handsets, you've got some differences here. The Nexus 4 is slightly larger in terms of height and width, roughly about 4.5 millimeters in terms of height, 3.5 millimeters in terms of width. However, it is thinner, 1.3 millimeters thinner than the Moto X. Now this is talking of the thickest point of the Moto X because it is a curved back, but generally speaking it is slightly thinner than the Moto X. The Nexus 4 also weighs a little bit more than the Moto X, 9 grams more. Again, nothing major here. In terms of the build, the Nexus 4 has that glass build, so it's got glass front and back. It's currently in the black and the white version, so those are the only two versions available. With the Moto X, you've got that high quality plastic build. Now the unique feature on the Moto X, and this is what separates it from other devices out there right now, is the customizable option. So you've got 18 back colors, 7 accent colors, and 2 types of cases for the Moto X. So you've got a whole variety, and you're going to be able to customize them from the Moto Maker website as well. In stores you're generally just going to find the black and the white versions, but you can go online and get some customizations on the US. I think it's about a 4-day turnaround, so that's really interesting to see something different. You're really going to be able to customize your phone. You can also get an engraving on there as well, so really nice to see here. Now looking at what's inside these devices, the Nexus 4 has a quad-core 1.5 gigahertz processor. The Motorola Moto X has a 1.7 gigahertz dual-core processor. Now both of these are running the Adreno 320 GPU. In terms of benchmarks, from what I've seen, they are quite similar, so we are going to have to see these hands-on side by side and see what the performance differences are. Both of these devices have 2 gigabytes of RAM, pretty standard on most new Android smartphone these days, so you're going to have similar multitasking abilities on both of these here. In terms of the different versions available, you've got the 16 and 32 gigabyte versions for the Moto X. The Nexus 4, you've got the 8 and 16 gigabyte versions. Now neither of these are expandable, so with the Nexus 4, if you do go for the 8 gig version, you might be limited in terms of space. It would have been nice to see a 32 gigabyte version, but that has not been available. Another advantage that the Moto X has over the Nexus 4 is that it supports 4G LTE, which the Nexus 4 does not. That was a bit of a disappointment with the Nexus 4, but this is an advantage that the Moto X has. In terms of the cameras, the Nexus 4 has a standard 8 megapixel camera. It's not bad. It has the standard Google features on there. With the Moto X, you've got a 10 megapixel camera, but it has clear pixel technology. Now clear pixel technology, they're saying that the pixels are 27% larger compared to standard smartphones out there, and they will capture 75% more light. So generally speaking, the Moto X is going to be better at low light performance, but we'll have to see these side by side. The Moto X also comes with lots of new features for the camera. So if you flip it twice like a screwdriver, that will activate the camera. I'm not sure how practical that is or if it's a bit gimmicky, and you can touch anywhere on the screen to take a picture. You can also zoom in and out by just swiping your thumb up and down. So quite some new nifty features on the Moto X camera here. Now both of these film at 1080p from the rear facing cameras. The front facing cameras, you've got a 2 megapixel camera on the Moto X. On the Nexus 4 you've got a 1.3 megapixel front facing camera. The Moto X also does 1080p from the front facing camera. The Nexus 4 only does 720p from the front facing camera. So a few more advantages here for the Moto X in terms of the cameras. Now, operating systems, the Nexus 4 has that advantage of stock Android, so you're going to be getting updates straight away. So 4.3 Jelly Bean is the latest version of Android, which you're going to be getting straight away on the Nexus 4, which is great to see. The Moto X, because Motorola is now owned by Google, everyone was expecting to have a complete stock Android, but that's not the case. It is very close to vanilla Android, but there are some changes. You've got some more additions and some more custom features on here. A few to mention: you've got always on voice commands, so you can just say OK Google now and that will activate the device, and there's a lot more voice control commands on here compared to standard devices. You've also got pulse notifications on the screen, so they will just pulse on there, and both of these features are supposed to not take too much battery as well. The Nexus 4 does come with wireless charging, however, something that the Moto X doesn't. Now it really depends what you want to go for, because the Nexus 4 is really going to give you that stock Android experience and those updates straight away from Google. Now Moto X, considering that it's just been released now after the release of 4.3, but it's still got 4.2.2, you know, it just goes to show that yes, you may be getting it quicker than other manufacturers such as HTC and Samsung, but it's still not going to be as quick as the stock Android options here. Battery, 2200 mAh battery versus the 2100 mAh battery on the Nexus 4. Now usage wise, the Moto X, they are saying you're going to get 24 hours of mixed usage from this device. Now that we'll have to wait and see hands-on to see what it's like. The Nexus 4, in my personal experience, it's not been brilliant in terms of battery life. It's just given me average use, not great use I would say. So you know, for your general day-to-day usage, it will probably get you through the day, but it'll be really interesting to see how the Moto X compares to the Nexus 4 hands-on. Now pricing wise, the Nexus 4 comes in at that budget price, $299 for the 8GB version or $349 for the 16GB version. Also available in the UK for £239 and £279 for the 16GB version. So a very competitive price point here. Offline, no contract whatsoever, and that's been something key for the Nexus 4. It's coming at that budget price. The Moto X currently is not going to be available offline. They have said that it will be coming on the Play Store soon. No ideas in terms of pricing, but it is available on contract, $199 on a 2-year contract. So you are going to have to sign up for a contract to get the Moto X right now. Now it's going to be released in late August, early September time in US and Canada. No word on the UK either, so you know whether it's going to be released in the UK sooner or later, you're not sure about that. And even if it does come in the UK, you're most likely only going to get the black and the white versions. So that's quite disappointing to see that you're not going to be seeing it internationally straight away, and you're not going to be seeing it offline straight away either. You are going to have to go for that contract. So that's a big advantage that the Nexus 4 has over the Moto X. So those were the key differences between these two devices. A lot of people were expecting the Moto X to come at similar pricing point as the Nexus 4, because now Motorola is owned by Google. They were expecting the Moto X to be the next Nexus, but that does not seem to be the case here. And the Moto X, although it's offering some customizability, it's not the best specs out there, but the pricing in terms of the contract pricing is up there with things like the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the HTC One, which are a bit more premiumly priced compared to the Nexus 4. So if you are looking for a budget device offline, the Nexus 4 is still great, and it is still a great device. You know, hopefully we will be seeing a new Nexus 4 or a Nexus 5 maybe shortly. That will be really nice to see in the next few months, and hopefully that will also be at a budget price, but we'll have to wait and see about that. What do you think of the Moto X? Would you buy it over the Nexus 4? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, as always, please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And why not subscribe to the channel? I've got plenty more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV, and I'll see you next time.